So you can see on both sides the Procuratie, while on the back, just behind us, is the Ala Napoleonica. Since the 12th century, the Procuratie housed the offices and apartments of the procurators of St. Mark. The two buildings originally had wings on the west side of the square, and they were separated only by a small church. After the fall of the Serenissima, in about 1810, the wings and the church were demolished and replaced by the third building, the Napoleonic wing, or Ala Napoleonica. Since 1922, the Napoleonic wing and the Procuratie Nuove on the south side of the square host the Museo Corrado.
And obviously what you can recognize in front of us right now is the famous landmark of Venice, the Basilica di San Marco, the St. Mark's Basilica. And you have here, on the right hand side of the Basilica, the St. Mark's Bell Tower, the Campanile di San Marco.
Feel free to look all the way up to the St. Mark's Bell Tower. Measuring 98.6 meters in height, this is the tallest building in Venice. When it was first built in the 9th century, it worked as a watchtower and a lighthouse. In over 1,000 years of existence, the Campanile was struck by lightning several times because of its height, and it was severely damaged on 10 occasions. Since 1772, luckily, the bell tower has a lightning conductor. Since then, the lightnings and the fires stopped, but one morning in 1902, the bell tower suddenly collapsed entirely to the ground, leaving the Venetians and the whole world speechless. Despite the shock, Venetians rebuilt the Campanile with an extremely conservative restoration, returning the bell tower for the whole world to see. Dov'era e com'era, where it was and how it was before it collapsed. The St. Mark's Basilica has surprising origins. The church was first built between 828 and 832, after Venetian merchants stole the relics of the evangelist Mark from Alexandria in Egypt and brought them to Venice. This first church burned in 976 during a riot against the Doge, and a new version was built only in 1071, almost 100 years later. St. Mark's was declared the new patron of Venice as soon as the church was inaugurated, but only in 1807, after the end of the Serenissima, did the St. Mark's Church become the cathedral of the city. While the structure almost didn't change since 1071, the succeeding centuries contributed to a continuous change and enrichment of its adornment. Thanks to the Venetian wealth and incredible trades network and very profitable wars, Venetian ships continuously supplied columns, marbles, and sculptures from the east. After the Fourth Crusade in 1204, where Venice defeated and conquered Byzantium, a further and incredible amount of treasures and masterpieces were taken from the then biggest and wealthiest metropole in the world and used to enrich even further St. Mark's Church. We are now crossing the Piazzetta, the area of St. Mark's Square closest to the water. On our left, you can see the Palazzo Ducale, or Doge's Palace, the heart of the political power in Venice at the time of the Serenissima. On our right, you can see the Biblioteca Marciana, the Marciana Library, designed by Jacopo Sansovino in 1537. The original project included a majestic dome, but when the initial project was almost completed, the dome crashed, Sansovino was put under arrest and had to repay the economic loss with his own money before being released. After this accident, he decided to give up on building the dome. You never know. And just in front of us, towards the basin of St. Mark's, we can see two tall columns. On top of these columns are Sant'Odaro, the first patron of the city, and a winged lion representing St. Mark's, the last and current patron of Venice. And now we are in front of the waterfront of the Palazzo Ducale, the Doge's Palace in Venice. What is amazing in Venice is that all the major buildings have terrific facades, while the sides or the back of the building are often not as beautiful. And that's for a good reason. Every building in Venice was meant to be seen from the water. This is the way the city was meant to be lived, by navigating it, by bringing merchandise and spices from distant places. Also because Venice wanted to impress, and people coming to Venice were always reaching from one place, the water. So imagine the impression it could make on a boat, coming to Venice for the first time and passing in front of the Palazzo Ducale. The Palazzo Ducale, or Doge's Palace, has been the seat of the political power of the Venetian Republic. It was the residence of the Doge, as well as house to the political bodies of the state. Administrative offices, law courts, grand stairways, council halls, apartments, and prisons were all fit into this beautiful and complex yet efficient building. Initially built in the 10th century in a Byzantine style, the reconstruction started in 1340 with the creation of the Sala del Maggior Consiglio, or Great Council Hall. It is a clear example of Gothic architecture. Over the following centuries, multiple expansions and changes took place without changing, however, the overall Gothic style. The Palazzo Ducale lost its functions with the arrival of Napoleon in 1797 and was then converted in a public museum in 1923. Since that year, the Palazzo Ducale, which is the most important museum of Venice, tells the history of the Serenissima, the longest lasting republic in history. One of the most famous and the most misunderstood bridge of Venice, the Ponte dei Sospiri, or Bridge of Sighs. Every year, millions of people standing on the Ponte della Paglia take a picture while kissing their better half, with the Bridge of Sighs as the perfect and most romantic backdrop. But here's the catch. The Ponte dei Sospiri was built in 1614 to connect the Inquisitor's offices in Palazzo Ducale, on the left, to the Prigioni Nuove, or the new prisons, on the right. As you might have guessed, the sighs the name refers to are the heavy sighs of the convicted who were leaving their liberty behind and were most likely going to see Venice for the last time.